You know what's weird? When you're sitting in the theater for Iron Man 3 and then all of a sudden I'm Blue, Dabba Dee Dabba Die comes on right at the opening credits, and you just kind of start looking around and wondering if you're in the wrong theater. Because that threw me off. So Iron Man 3, first movie of the summer movie season, awesome, great way to start it off. I mean, even if, like, it's not a really great movie, just seeing a Marvel summer movie opener is just a great feeling. You know, going into Iron Man 3, I think there was kind of like this shared uncertainty, and especially leading up to it, about, you know, should we be treating this as a follow-up to the Avengers, like the beginning of Phase 2, or is this just a sequel to Iron Man 2? And I think pretty quickly the movie just takes, you know, itself completely away from the tone of the first two movies, and I'd say the tone from the second one is completely different than the first, I think, in a not good way, and it looked like in the trailer that this one was going to be a lot more like the first one, but I think each of them now just has a very distinct and different style, and I totally wouldn't associate it with the Avengers at all, because it's very distant from that as well, in some good... I mean, it still feels like an Iron Man movie. There's the Robert Downey Jr. Banter, and just him being Tony Stark that everybody loves. Yeah, so it does feel like an Iron Man movie. It kind of had, you know, kind of with the first one, did not have a lot of actual scenes with, like, the Iron Man suit, where it was, like, functioning correctly, and, like, he was actually... I think maybe there's, like, one or two. That's not a bad thing. This movie's definitely very character-based. The second one tried really hard to be much more, you know, action-packed, and just didn't work. It just was ridiculous. The action wasn't exciting. Iron Man 3 has those problems as well. For like an action superhero movie, I think all three of them have really struggled to really, like, get any extensive combat with you know, just Iron Man fighting, like, and doing it well, and really just, like, solidifying, like, an action scene. I really couldn't take the second one seriously for most of those scenes. The first one didn't really have that many, and weren't very intricate. And then this one, just some of them don't really work, and unfortunately it's kind of the climax, but that's also for numerous other reasons. Now, I thought it took about, you know, like 40 or so minutes to really get into, like, this is a good part of this movie. I thought, you know, the beginning kind of dragged a little bit. Then the middle hour and a half of the movie I think is solid, some of the best stuff in the series. I really, really love those parts. Despite there's some scenes where, you know, like, I know Tony Stark is just supposed to be an asshole, and Robert Downey Jr. plays as so, and that's one of the things you love about him. But in the other movies, just like, he's like, oh, you rapscallion, and, like, there's redemption. I feel like there's very few redeemable moments in this movie for him, because it goes between, you know, him struggling and having PTSD, which I get. It's not a problem with the Avengers, just the Avengers made all of the life and death stuff really, really just it's just a light-hearted movie when it came to that, especially when Tony Stark almost dies. And, you know, I get, like, initially he's just gonna, you know, put on a smile and joke around like he normally does, and I would get that, but there's no transition. It's just like, ha ha ha, and then now I'm really depressed. And I think he does it really well. It's probably some of the best acting he does so far. And then towards the climax, I just feel like it doesn't feel nearly as epic as it should. And I'm not even comparing that to the Avengers. I'm just saying that it does. I didn't feel like much was at stake, and the twist, without, you know, spoiling anything, I don't think it was necessary. Like, I think they could have gone a better route, but they did it really well for what happened. And then the other villain, Guy Pearce, I think he does a good job. There's just a lack of character motivation, or at least development. Like, I got bits of it, but it just didn't feel cohesive. Very underdeveloped. The threat of the movie, I don't know if that would be spoiling anything. Basically, like, the thing that Tony Stark's fighting, it was really underdeveloped. I had no clue like all of a sudden, like, different people did different things with it, and I just didn't know what was going on. I think in specific parts, the movie's fantastic. I think it could have been tightened up a little bit. Definitely some very heavily flawed areas. But overall, like, it's a really fun movie. I had a blast watching it. There are some impressive action scenes. I think it's a good way to come off the Avengers, to kind of bring it back to... While they do a really great job of, like, referencing out to that movie, they don't... It's not about that, and I think it does a good job of establishing the second phase, the individual movies. I'm gonna give it an 8.5 out of 10. Yeah, I probably, I think I talked about the things I didn't like more than the things I liked, because I think, the things that I liked about this movie were pretty contingent with the other movies, and are pretty self-explanatory. It's a fun movie. Robert Downey Jr. is awesome. Let me know what your thoughts on Iron Man 3 are below, and which of the next round of Marvel Cinematic Universe movies are you looking forward to the most now? Now, sitting there watching this movie, and I'm starting to think to myself, I'm pretty sure that Iron Man 3 right here is just a big analogy for Robert Downey Jr.'s cross-country drug binging in the 90s. Alright, so he's like waking up in different states with no recollection of how he got there. He's just a mess, he can't sleep, he is paranoid, he's having anxiety attacks. There is a lot of different things going on here that lead me to the conclusion that this movie's about drugs.